What's up, Unlocking Your Inner Strength listeners? How would you like to know how to banish the myth of multitasking from your brain forever? Well, I got good news for you. I've put together a special report showing you exactly how to do this. Normally it's $45, but since you're a loyal listener of the show, you can get it for only $10 at unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/time.
You're listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you want to step into your greatness, you've come to the right place. Here is your host, the human strength expert, Kyle Newell.
All right, everybody. Welcome to episode number 69 of Unlocking Your Inner Strength, the podcast. This is Kyle Newell of KyleNewell.com and Newell Strength. So starting something new this week, I'll start getting a regular schedule as far as when these are going to be live, but I'm going to start broadcasting the podcast live on the Kyle Newell public figure page at Kyle Newell Fitness Expert on Facebook. So it's more like a radio show. So if people have comments or questions during the show, they can check in and type them in and I'll answer them. And it will also be put out as a regular podcast. So this is episode number 69. So for today's topic, I want to go over leadership. Now, usually when there's something floating around in my mind, meaning if I'm struggling with something, that's a sign to me that other people are struggling with it as well, and that I must dig into it and I must speak about it because somebody else is going to connect and it's going to help somebody else. With that being said, I was at a great friend of mine, Vince Gabriel's mentorship this past weekend, and he had me and my buddy Brandon Kelly from Chicago on an expert panel talking to other gym owners, some of them new into the game, some of them that are just at different levels of business. And Vince said, what is the one trait that you have that really separates you and allowed you to succeed or have success thus far as an entrepreneur? And for me, that was persistence. Well, what drives the persistence is a unyielding optimism, meaning I believe I can do anything. As naive as that is, sometimes people would say that it's just a stupid way to believe and think. But just because I have that optimistic mindset and I work on it constantly doesn't mean that I don't get down. There are many times we all go through self-doubt and we all feel like we're inadequate at some level and that we're not good enough to achieve what we want to achieve in life. And the important thing is to remember that you have to keep moving forward. Action always trumps inaction, especially when you get depressed. So when we talk about the brain and we have freeze mode, right? That's one of the animal parts of the brain. When we talk about the lizard brain and the mammal brain, freeze mode is a stress response. The worst thing we could do when we start feeling that like we're getting down in that depressed state is to stay still and not do anything. That's the worst. That is the worst thing you can do. You got to keep moving forward. Now, a lot of times we feel, okay, I want to achieve this. Like there's a lot of stuff I want to do in Newell Strength right now, a ton of stuff. And if I think too far out into the future, I'm going to have anxiety about that. And that's called the anxiety gap. Your brain is designed for prediction and response. It's designed to see patterns. Patterns keep us alive. The further out into the future that you think, the less prediction and response that you have. And what happens then is anxiety goes up because you don't know the next step. There's way too many variables that can happen between day 1 and day 90. So you got to have a daily system that you follow and just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. There's many times when I don't know how to do something that I want to do. And in the past, I would get all really anxious about it and I would get kind of depressed about it. And then I would retreat back into my hole. But that feeling of overwhelm comes when we're focusing on too many things. And it's not having too many things on our list that makes us overwhelmed. It's the thoughts about those things. The answer to overwhelmed is never to do more. It's not to do more things. It's to do less things. So break it down to the one thing that you have to do. And with leadership, you have to realize some people will say, oh, I'm not a leader. I don't have to lead anybody. You're wrong. Because no matter whether you are leading a team, whether you're a fireman that has guys underneath you, whether you're in the service, whether you own your own business or not, you have to lead yourself. You have to lead yourself. And once you accept that in life, and once you take responsibility, okay, the ability to respond rather than react, once you accept that, then you have given up the right to make excuses. Let me say that again. Once you become a leader, and you realize that you're in control of your life and the direction that it's going, you have given up your right to make excuses. Now, there's two key words with that. Two very simple words. I'm going to be working on an article about this today for the next newsletter. Yet, Y-E-T, and but, B-U-T. Very simple words, very powerful words. Now, when you hear somebody say, I want to do this, but, yeah, but, you know what's coming next is an excuse or a reason why it cannot be done. So when you have a but mindset, you're going to constantly be in the mode of excuse making and not taking action because you're always searching for reasons to justify your inaction. On the flip side, if we take the word yet, I don't know how to do this yet. I don't know how to do this yet, but I will be able to figure it out. Completely different mindset. And that's a very powerful word. The way the brain acts, guys and girls, is the way it operates. It's going to give you an answer to whatever you ask of it. So when you hit a hard time, when you hit a roadblock, when you feel down, say to yourself, what's great about this problem? What is great about this problem? And your brain will come up with an answer to that. The brain is hardwired to focus on the negative. That's what it does. It's a survival mechanism, something called your amygdala, which is deep in your brainstem, always scanning the environment to figure out where the threats are coming from. Its default is negative because it's built for survival. So we have to actively pursue an optimistic mindset, and we have to constantly work on engaging that. What's up, Unlocking Your Inner Strength listeners? How would you like to know how to banish the myth of multitasking from your brain forever? Well, I got good news for you. I've put together a special report showing you exactly how to do this. Normally it's $45, but since you're a loyal listener of the show, you can get it for only $10 at unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/time. Another thing I want to talk about it's kind of ironic, right? When we're going after the things we want to go after in life, we're going to face resistance. When we're going after things that we don't really desire in life, we're not going to face any resistance. Now, what I mean by that is if I say, hey, I'm going to shut down shop and I'm going to go work at my neighborhood Walmart, I'm not going to have any resistance with that. That's going to be a very easy move. Nothing's going to get in my way. If I say, hey, I want to open 25 Newell strengths, there's going to be a ton of resistance. You better believe that. There already is with opening a second one. But the resistance, when you reframe it, the resistance only appears when you're trying to move to a higher sphere in your life. It only appears when you're trying to climb the ladder. So if you realize that, you say, okay, I'm facing resistance now. This means I'm on the right path. Whereas most people face resistance and they retreat back into that shell. And they might poke their head out again in the future, but then they retreat back as soon as they feel it. But know that resistance is one of your greatest markers for your personal compass in moving forward in life. When you feel resistance, you go through it. Now, with resistance, a great book about that is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Fantastic book, easy read, talks a lot about resistance. And Linchpin is also one by Seth Godin, where he talks about the lizard brain. And it's kind of this collective consciousness about what you should do. And with success, you have to realize that if you don't know anything about what you're trying to do or how you're going to make things work, look at what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. So you figure out what everybody else is doing and you do the opposite. Most people are wrong. The way they handle their money, the way they handle their time, the way they handle success, the way they go after success, the way they take care of their bodies, their relationships. That's why people are average. Well, I'm going to do the same thing he's doing. Why would you do that if he's not getting the results that you want to have? So look around, observe what others are doing, and do the opposite. I was going to do, I actually just got my wood-burning stove yesterday, so that'll be in the shed. Right now in the shed, it's 41 degrees. So I'm going to finish recording this, and I'm going to the coffee shop because my hands usually get a little cold. It's hard for me to type. This is from a great book, The 50th Law, one of my favorite books, top 5 books by Robert Greene, and 50 Cent was his collaborator on it. The fearless types in history inevitably display in their lives a higher tolerance than most of us for repetitive, boring tasks. This allows them to excel in their field and master their craft. So the ability to stay with the boring task until you master it And this is something that's been so great for me going to jiu-jitsu, being a novice, being the freshest white belt in the class, is I've realized just master one principle. That's it. There's 1,000,001 methods of how to choke somebody out. And that's sexy and that's cool to know, but just master the principle. How do I keep the body of these guys straight if I'm trying to control him? How do I keep my hip next to his hip? And it's boring, but you got to do it. And successful people in life, I always tell Devin, now look, let me preface this too with, I don't think I've even gotten to 10% of my full potential. I know I haven't. But when I look around, I'm living more the life that I want to live than most other people that I know, because I'm chasing my dream. And where I was going with that is people that have a little bit of success or that seem to be extremely disciplined are usually the most lazy people. And thus the need arises to become extremely disciplined. And people think that discipline is going to take away from your freedom. Discipline is going to give you more freedom because it's going to free up more time to be with the people you want to be with, to do the things you want to do in life. And again, look at the way most small businesses operate. They have no systems in place. They have nothing, and it's just them. And the thing that they thought was going to give them more freedom has robbed them of even more time. We all want freedom and fulfillment. The purpose of any goal in our life should be to increase happiness. The purpose of any goal that you have should be to increase happiness. If the goal is not doing that, you are on the wrong path. Find a new goal. That's all I have for today. As I said, we're going to start doing this on Facebook Live. I see we got a couple guys watching, so that's pretty cool. This was unannounced. I'm going to start doing this weekly. It's going to start turning into more like a radio show, my podcast. So I'll post when the show will be live next week. And then if you have questions as it's going on, you could type them in and I'll answer them. And then the recordings will be here so people can watch this on the Facebook Live page or the podcast. This podcast will be out in a couple weeks once the producer is done doing his thing with it. As always, please share this with somebody that could use a positive message. I know I'm always looking for positive messages when I'm driving around. I'm trying to find positive tracks. And a lot of the stuff on YouTube is good, but it becomes repetitive. It's just inspirational music in the background or saying the same thing. But I know there's people that can use a real life positive message. And I struggle with the same things you struggle with. And that's why I want to share it with you. So share it with somebody that could use it. And if you have a chance, please leave a review on iTunes, Unlocking Your Inner Strength. That's the name of the podcast. That'll help us out greatly if you can leave a review. We'll be back next week with episode 70. And if there's any topics that you want me to cover, shoot them to me on a Facebook message or Kyle at Newell Strength, and I'll talk about that. I'll make that a podcast. So win the day. That's all I got for today. And peace.
You've been listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes.